Walter here. I'm going to do just a little bit of a vlog. It's rainy today. It's Saturday afternoon. Somebody's burning somewhere. They got a burn barrel or trash, burning limbs or leaves or something, because there's a linger of wood smoke in the air. It doesn't smell bad. So I don't think they're burning any trash. It's just burning limbs or leaves or something. But I came out to clean the barbecue grill. We're going to have some steaks tonight. And I figured I'd come out now while it's not raining hard. Maybe talk to you a little bit. If I think of a story, I'll tell you it is 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Somebody was talking about centigrade the other day, and I don't know centigrade one from another. I can see on there 60 is the same as about 16, looks like about 16 centigrade. But I don't understand the centigrade system, never have. We bought a digital thermometer without paying attention, and it reads in centigrade, so I could be dying with a fever and not know whether my temperature's right or not. I was thinking the other day about back when I was in the Navy. We were stationed on minesweepers. At this particular time, I was on the USS Jacana, J-A-C-A-N-A. It was a minesweeper. Minesweepers are named after birds. Well, they were. Probably don't even have any minesweepers now. Most minesweeping's done with helicopters, probably. But anyway, I was on 4 different minesweepers. Let's see. The limpkin, that's a type of bird. The jacana, those were MSC and coastal minesweepers. Ocean minesweepers, I was on the USS Afray, A-F-F-R-A-Y, and USS Dominant, D-O-M-I-N-A-N-T. I specialized in damage control, so when they needed a damage controlment somewhere, they went out into mineland, what you call mineland, and recruited one of us to go fill a position on another ship. That's why I was on 4 different minesweepers. But of all the minesweepers I was on, the Jacana I spent the most time on. We cruised the Caribbean a lot, all up and down the Atlantic coast of the United States, different places. We went as far north as Fall River, Massachusetts, out into the Arctic Ocean up there one time. I remember how cold that was. My neighbor's getting her mail out of, well, no, she didn't either, because the mail hadn't run yet. Our mailman's been so late, so running late here lately. I'm getting distracted from what I wanted to talk about. We were in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba one year. I've told a story about the time we rode out the hurricane, so I won't repeat that, but this relates to the time we were riding out the hurricane in Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay is a huge bay on the south side of the island of Cuba. And when I mean huge, it's big. It's probably darn near as big as the Gulf of Mexico. It's big. So here comes a hurricane. Well, we didn't have modern radar to tell you 2 or 3 days in advance there's going to be a hurricane. Usually when a hurricane got close, then you knew there was one coming. So a ship like a minesweeper or any kind of ship or boat, you see it every time a hurricane comes through, should not stay tied up to the dock in a hurricane. You'll see these boats and things like, you know, when the water gets high, the next thing you know, your boat is downtown somewhere. So you either get on your ship and make a run for it, or you go out and you ride out the hurricane. Well, we opted to go out into the bay, dropped anchor. Minesweeper that we were on was like 157 feet long or something like that. Dropped both anchors, starboard and port side. And we're so far out into the bay, you couldn't even see the island of Cuba anymore. But the water's not as deep in that bay as it is out in the Atlantic. So we're out in Guantanamo Bay. The hurricane comes in. Now the waves are like high as my house that we're in right here. The waves are huge. I mean, they're just up and down, up and down. And we dragged them anchors all over Guantanamo Bay, trying to stay stable out there. Well, in the height of the hurricane, I decided I had a little Polaroid camera. I want a picture of me out there on the amidship somewhere above deck in this storm. It was fairly dark. It didn't make a good picture at all. But I'm going to go out here. It was a place about amidships where you could come out from below decks, and it exited out onto about amidships, and you were right there by the smokestack in the center part of the ship, and there was two entrances to go below decks to the engine rooms, forward engine room and aft engine room, with walkways down both sides of the ship. I'm going out here and stand by this rail. Now the rail was about as high as this wooden handrail here, but it's just a little metal post every 3 or 4 feet. It's got this white, looks like rope, but it's cables stretched across there where you can grab onto that cable. Here comes the mailman. I'm going out here, and I'm going to stand out here. When the big wave comes flopping by, you take my picture, and I'll run back in here, and it'll look like I was standing out there in the middle of the hurricane. It was all you could do to walk, let alone stand still. And I did. I went out there and dang near got washed off the side of the ship. They took my picture, but it didn't come out good because it was dark. It would have been nice to have a video camera back in them days. Talking about almost getting washed overboard, that might have been kind of an exaggeration, but I definitely got soaking wet with ocean water. But it brings to mind a time that we were underway somewhere in the South Atlantic. It was a gray, dismal day, about like today. And I like to go out and stand on deck a lot. So I was about amidship, leaning back against the smokestack. Nobody else is out on deck. I don't remember what time of day it was, but it was late. And it was cloudy and gray. I'm just standing there. You had a tendency to want to get seasick when it was real rough like that. So I'm standing out there breathing fresh air, trying not to get seasick. And every once in a while you'll hit an odd wave that would jerk the ship real hard one way or the other. Minesweepers are wooden hull ships that float about like a fishing bobber does on the end of a fishing pole. Just bounces everywhere. Well, we hit this odd wave and it jerked the ship sideways to the point that I lost my balance and fell down. When I fell forward towards that handrail on the side of the ship, and the ship leaned so much that the wave washed right over the top of the deck. The handrail, which was about this high, was underwater. You couldn't even see it. And I fell into that wave like I was going to get washed right off the side of the ship. But I knew the handrail was there somewhere, and I put my arm out and grabbed it. And when the ship came back to vertical floating, I was soaked from head to toe because I was completely underwater for a minute. And if I hadn't grabbed onto that handrail, Walter would have been in the Atlantic Ocean somewhere. Nobody would have known where I was. And basically, I would have probably swam around out there until I drowned. There was a tale, I don't know how the details of it, but there's a story about a sailor that got washed overboard on one of them aircraft carriers. Every day they'll have quarters on the ship to see who's still aboard. You know, you never know, somebody could get washed off and fall overboard. So they have quarters every morning, like a roll call. Anyway, when they went to quarters, they found out this guy was missing. He had fell off the ship. They turned the ship around and went back looking for him. And they found him like, I don't remember how long, 12, 15, 20 hours later. Found him out there swimming around in the ocean waiting for them to come back. They teach you skills like how to take your trousers off and make a float out of them. So I imagine some of those things that they trained us would help you to stay alive for a while, as long as the sharks don't get you. Anyway, they said, how did you stay awake, alive so long out there? And I just made up my mind I wasn't going to die. I would still be swimming out there next week waiting for y'all to come back looking for me. Anyway, I would definitely hold out as long as I could. But there have been plenty of instances where sailors washed overboard or fell overboard and were never seen again. Well, that ought to be clean enough for a steak. I'll heat it red hot and wire brush it a little better when it gets hot. Got all the stuff out of the bottom of the stove. You'd be surprised how often I think of my Navy days. And not all of it was unpleasant. A lot of it was interesting. Since I started wearing my veteran's cap, says I'm a Navy veteran, I get a lot of people to walk up to me and say, thank you for your service. And I always tell them it was my pleasure. I'd do it all again too if they needed me. You can generally spot another veteran when you're out there walking around. There's something about the way you greet each other. You know you're talking to another veteran.